Is a play Tennessee made, right? So you can give them credit for that, but that set them up for the next field goal. And then, yeah, like you said, right before the half, to go for it on fourth, like to not just take 20-7, like 20-7 going into the half, like with how poorly you played, like that's fine. Like just take that, go into the half down 2 touchdowns. To just give Tennessee the ball right there on their side of the 50, that was a terrible decision.
Yes, it was. But look, they did it. And LSU fans are a little uncomfortable about the state of the program with Brian Kelly at the moment. But we'll see. It's a long way to go, man.
Kelly's under like a weird pressure, I feel like nationally. Like this, people just became like Sam Pittman just made everyone become obsessed with culture. Oh yeah, the culture is just so important. Shane Beamer, no, winning games is important. Like Kirby Smart lost to Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech year one, almost lost to Nicholls State. Like year one is just not the time to make, like, there's a reason things are bad. There's a reason he's here and as a new coach. It's because things were not good previously. So this whole, like, his accent and, like, he doesn't fit the culture of LSU. Like, yeah, but Ed Orgeron does fit the culture better. He's also a terrible coach, and that's why you fired him 2 years after winning a national championship. Like, you could see it. So he wasn't a good coach before 2019, and he wasn't a very good coach after 2019. So that's like, yeah, have the culture all you want. You got to have a good coach. You got to win games. And I trust Brian Kelly is going to get LSU going the right direction. So I hope people aren't overreacting to 4-2 his first 6 games. Like 4-2 is honestly pretty good considering this schedule in the first 6 games.
Yeah, you just want to get 7-5 and keep recruits happy.
You want to go to a bowl game and get those extra bowl practices and whatever, and start to bring in your own guys, and that's how you win. That's how you change the culture.
Next up, speaking of changing the culture, Brent Venables at Oklahoma just getting destroyed in 3 straight games. Matt Green, Texas, they. A couple crazy stats. First Sooners shutout since 1965 in the series. Ewers, I thought, was incredible in this one. He had a lot of fun big-time throws. He's a lot more mobile than you would think, but he threw for a career-high 289 yards, 21 of 31 through the air, 4 TDs, 1 pick. I mean, Oklahoma, and we should mention they didn't have Dylan Gabriel in this one, but like this was still, they were running the Wildcat at points in this game because they were just out of options. And I mean, this should not just be the case at Oklahoma. There's still too much talent for this to be the situation that the Sooners have found themselves in. 195 total yards, 11 first downs as a whole. This was from an ESPN story that I thought was wild. Quote, after a 55-24 loss to TCU last week, the Sooners have now lost back-to-back games by more than 30 points for the first time in school history. Like, this is not just like a transition year. This is one of those where you're like, oh, this is bad, where there's losing and there's going through some tumultuous times, but this is not taking over Rutgers, taking over Minnesota, taking over even Nebraska. This is Oklahoma, and I understand that Lincoln Riley took a lot of talent with him to USC. I understand that. They kept a lot of talent, and they did pretty well in the portal. Like, there's a reason that they were a preseason top 10 team. If we were really worried about the talent drain from the Oklahoma transfers, we would have been like, oh, they're going to be lucky to get 6-6. Like, this is just a little insurmountable. But no, there was playoff talk. I have the receipts. I can pull up the pieces on, like, Oklahoma should be a playoff team. Dylan Gabriel should be a Heisman candidate. Like, all the stuff was right there where we were like, oh, this is going to be a great Oklahoma team. I think it's more. I think this really does fall on the coaching more than anything. And I think Brent Venables is, I mean, it's still, like we just said with Brian Kelly, year one, but it's bad. And I think there is a line where, like, he's teetering towards that line of, like, is he bad enough where we just can't afford to let their brand diminish this much over a cultural change? I don't know. I'm concerned. I'm quite concerned. What do you make of the current state of those Sooners?
See, that's where I disagree with you, because I think we just have to recalibrate our expectations. Like, the preseason polls, like, we should know by now, like, not to put too much emphasis in these preseason polls. Like, their name is Oklahoma. That brand name is why they got playoff talk and why they were preseason top 10 and why me and you on this podcast before the season were like, yeah, they could still easily be the best team in the Big 12. Like, it's Oklahoma. But with what Lincoln Riley actually took to USC with him and with just other guys that left the program, this was not just the, come in and just keep the ball rolling like Ryan Day coming into Ohio State or like Lincoln Riley first taking over for Bob Stoops. Like, it became a rebuild once Lincoln Riley just took everything with him essentially when he went to USC, everything he wanted at least. So I think it's unfair to say to panic too much because on the outside it didn't feel like a rebuild, but I think we should kind of take a second look. I go, okay, maybe this was more of a rebuild than we kind of gave this credit for to start the season. And you basically took all of my Texas-Oklahoma stats. I'm not going to blame you for it, but you basically took all of them except so you had the 1965 part. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what year it went back to, but I saw it was a 311 game streak that went back to 1965 of them being shut out. And also the one last stat I had was this was the worst loss ever to Texas, 49-0. So yeah, it's definitely bad, but like I said, it's year one. The only thing that concerns you more, like with LSU, you're talking like Brian Kelly has done this. He built Cincinnati into a powerhouse, or not powerhouse, but going to a BCS bowl as about as powerhouse as a Group of Five school gets. Took Notre Dame from the cellar to multiple playoff appearances, a BCS title game appearance. Like, he's got a proven track record, so like you can't just overreact to year one. Brent Venables, it's not nearly as a sure thing of like, oh, just give him some time. He's going to work this out. You've never seen him as a head coach. And it's also a guy who's like turned down being a head coach for like a decade. And so it kind of makes you want, oh, why was this guy turning down head coach? Does he have the confidence to be a head coach? Like, you could start to kind of hear whispers here and there. But like you said, they're 3-3 right now. And the Big 12 feels like a really good conference. Like, they have not gotten to a lot of the good teams on this schedule. They still have to play Baylor. They still have to play Oklahoma State. Like, even Texas Tech beat this Texas team that just absolutely beat the brakes off of them. I would be very worried if I was an Oklahoma fan. But on the other side of Texas, I'm just going to say what everybody's thinking and doesn't want to say. We were all rooting against Quinn Ewers, right? We saw the hair. We saw, like, who the hell is this guy? Like, went to Ohio State for, like, a payday for a year, then came back to Texas. So many people were rooting against Quinn Ewers. I'll say it. That mullet was just awful. Like, I feel like it looks better now than it did when he's coming out of high school, but maybe it's just because I respect Quinn Ewers now more. But seeing this dude play, he is the real deal. Like, he makes Texas a legit contender. I think coming back in 2023, like, Texas is going to be like a preseason top 5, top 10 team just because of Quinn Ewers alone. Like he's a superstar as far as I'm concerned. Like, he's everything he was advertised to be.
Quinn Ewers is awesome, and Texas is legit. Like, if you go back and there's a case that if Quinn never gets hurt, they're undefeated right now. I
definitely think so. I think it's I mean, they'd be number 2, number 1 maybe right now if they'd beat Alabama. Like, there's. Especially considering how that game was going. Like, we don't know that they beat up by multiple scores, but I mean, they scored 19 points in the game. Or they held Alabama to 20 points, I should say. Like, they could have, with the way they were moving the ball with Quinn Ewers in that first quarter, like, who knows how much they could have beaten Bama by that day.
Yeah, Texas is back. Let me just go ahead and say that. I will say, though, I'm curious. Texas is back. Like, Sark has this thing humming. They're in good shape, and the defense is legit at Texas now.
Can they win the Big 12? They only have the one loss. Everybody plays everybody. They got the loss to Texas Tech. They don't even necessarily have a tiebreaker loss to anybody right now. If you kind of consider
who they have Kansas State, and where is that?
With Kansas State, TCU, and Oklahoma State kind of being at the top of the conference right now. I mean, it's...
Ooh, guess what? I don't like it, because do you know what they have back-to-back?
What's that?
So they get Iowa State at home this week. That's good. Then the next week, they go to Oklahoma State, and then 2 Kansas State back-to-back. I don't like it.
That's tough.
I don't think they get through both those undefeated.
But I feel like, it looks like I think Kansas State, they do have a bye week in between.
They do have a bye,
those.
so that's nice.
We'll see. I like this team with Quinn Ewers. Like they have a whole different ceiling when he's healthy.
You know what I don't like? Baylor on the 25th. You know where that should be? The A&M Aggies. That's what that game should be on the 25th. But no,
true.
Shout out to the Texas Longhorns, who are an extremely good football team. I will say this, though, with Oklahoma's schedule, they get Kansas at home this week. If they get blown out by Kansas at home, Matt Green, they continue the streak. They get blown out at home by Kansas. And then they're 3-4. Let's say they go to Iowa State and win 4-4. Lose at home to Baylor 4-5.
We're gonna count at Iowa State as a win right now for Oklahoma. I can't guarantee anything for this team.
I mean, at West Virginia, I guess, isn't it? Oklahoma State at home. That's the one I'm circling. If they get blown out and if they lose to Oklahoma State and that prevents them from going to a bowl, I think Venables is out. I don't think 5-7, especially 4-8. I think 4-8 you're out. 5-7 with a blowout loss to your rival at home, getting ready to move to the SEC. I don't know. I don't know if you can survive it at Oklahoma. It's just too big of a brand.
I don't think you can fire anybody after 1 year.
4-8
at 3-3, it's definitely possible they go 3-3 with these next 6.
I mean, if Kirby went 4-8 year 1, do you think Georgia fires him?
No, I don't think so.
3-9.
It's year 1. I mean, 3-9 is terrible, but especially when you consider an SEC schedule with like three cupcakes, most likely. I guess he had North Carolina in that year 1, but yeah, 3-9 obviously is terrible, but you just can't fire a guy after 1 year. There's just, especially in this era of the transfer portal, like just so many things, just so many moving parts.
Fired, then he's gonna have to clean house. Like everyone's out. Like you're gonna have to like clear out and start over on the whole staff front.
I think year 1's just a mulligan year. You just can't draw conclusions from year 1. Like Nick Saban went 6-7 year 1. Like you can have a losing record year 1 and like.
I mean, that's with the bowl.
Up.
I'm just saying, man, it's different. You are in dangerous territory when you take over.
It's not good. That's for sure. This is way worse than we thought.
Yes, I think I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's going to be a conversation to monitor over the course of the next several weeks.